Game delays are part of baseball. When a sheep got onto the field, it wasn't really a big deal. When a little kid jumped on the field in Chicago, only to be picked up by a player who returned him to his seat, people laughed. And when a dead fish unexplainably fell from the sky and stopped a game, people got over it. But some delays aren't so funny. We've had games canceled due to deadly earthquakes that literally split the stadium in half. Scary, unexplainable events led baseball games to be delayed. Roofs have caved in and fallen onto the field. Storms that are so ferocious they caused massive flash floodings, and perhaps the most dangerous, when two deranged fans rushed the field, seemingly unprovoked, to attack a coach. A year later, it happened again. These wild events obviously cause delays, but other times there have been fires in stadiums during games, and the game goes on like nothing happened. Storms that cover the entire field in snow, and the game continues. And a literal lightning strike that hit a player on the field, and umpires and the player both agreed to play on. But most of the time, delays are appropriately done because the weather is too intense. There is something on the field that makes it unplayable, or something that causes visibility to be dangerously low. Like during this Portland Pickles game. It was tied in the bottom of the 12th, and the pitcher was set to throw the most important pitch of the game.
And once it goes into play, hopefully the...
The lights went out and they never figured out how to turn them back on, so the game was canceled. If the player's visibility is affected, the game has to be delayed, which was why it was very dumb for the Brewers to shoot off fireworks inside in the middle of a plate appearance. This was an obvious distraction for the batter, so the game was briefly stopped. But not as distracting as a blizzard. On opening day 2003, umpires stopped this game due to snow, but not before absolutely screwing over the Orioles. At first, it was a great day for baseball, but in the third inning, it started lightly snowing. A few minutes later, it was a full-on blizzard. The pitcher couldn't even see the catcher's signs. Fans could hardly see the field. The umps definitely couldn't see the field, but for some reason, the game kept going on. Somehow, a batter made contact, sending a ball to right. The fielder couldn't see it. The camera guy couldn't see it. And the ump definitely couldn't see it. It landed on the ground, the fielder finally found it, and a run scored. But if you look closely, this ball landed 3 rows into the stands. Replay shows the ball rolling back fair after hitting the stands. The ball was at least 30 feet foul. The Orioles, who saw it, argued, but there was nothing the umps could do, and they immediately delayed the game. This game was played in perhaps the worst stadium in MLB history. When the Blue Jays became a team in 1977, they played in a football stadium. And despite the team being in Canada, they played outside. They are the only team in MLB history to have a Zamboni, and they used it. In the first MLB game ever played in Toronto, it snowed multiple inches. They were so excited for baseball in Toronto, the game went on with 0 delay, and despite a blizzard, 44,000 people stayed and watched the only MLB game in history with the entire field covered in snow. This game was the only MLB game played on a field with an American flag covered in kerosene. Yes, this game was briefly stopped because a father and son ran on the field and began lighting an American flag on fire in protest. But before they could light the match, Dodger center fielder and ex-Marine Rick Monday came out of nowhere and stole the flag. As these two learned, the hardest thing to do when running on the field is getting away with it. But that hasn't stopped people from trying. A game in Miami had to stop after a fan got on the field, dapped up a player without any security coming after him, then ran to center field, climbed the wall, and exited the stadium. Unfortunately, reports say he was later caught. This Reds fan did it successfully. He evaded security, ran off the field, eventually hid in a bathroom, then successfully exited the stadium without getting caught. Unfortunately for him, he ruined it when he posted a video of himself doing this online, which led to his arrest. This fan in Houston may have had the best attempt. He ran on the field, juked security, climbed over the wall, and evaded security again, onto the batter's eye and out of the stadium in the most miraculous escape ever seen. Shortly after, he accidentally tried to exit through an entrance that was locked and was caught at the very last second. A typical punishment for this is a night in jail, a fine, community service, and perhaps probation. This man wasn't so lucky. He paid a massive price because he didn't just delay a game, he delayed one of the most infamous games in sports history. In Game 6 of the 1986 World Series, while the Red Sox were a game away from winning it all, in New York City, one man boarded an illegal plane unauthorized to fly, secretly took off during the night and flew right over the stadium. In the top of the first inning, he parachuted onto the field as tens of thousands of fans and players cheered him on. The person batting was Bill Buckner. 8 innings later, he made the most costly and famous error in baseball history, helping the Mets win the game and eventually the World Series. The man who parachuted on the field was able to watch this in jail after the guards gave him a TV. They and the entire city of New York seemed to love this stunt. According to him, the Mets players helped him get a lawyer. Unfortunately for his case, he refused to snitch on the person who flew the plane, which resulted in the man being sentenced to 6 months in prison for parachuting on the field. That seems like an extremely harsh sentence, but scary incidents like this are why they exist. But before we cover why 2 fans attacked a coach, a quick word from today's sponsor. As someone who goes to a ton of baseball games, I've had my bad experiences with tickets. Some apps have massive fees, other times the tickets don't even arrive to your phone, and some only have bad seats that cost way too much. Not Game Time. I use Game Time every time I buy tickets for any event now, especially if it's last minute. Whether you're going to a baseball game, football game, basketball game, hockey game, concert, comedy show, or basically any event worth going to, Game Time has amazing last minute deals. They have flash deals, zone deals, and promotions that save you money regularly. The app shows you the view from your seat so you don't get bamboozled. And with Game Time's lowest price guarantee, you no longer have to download 5 apps and go to 3 websites to find the best deal. It's Game Time. If you do somehow find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. With the most exciting time of the baseball season upon us, now is the best time to catch a game before the season's over. So if you want to see a game or any other live event, just download the app, create an account, and use code BDE for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code BDE for $20 off. Do it right now. In 2003, a man and his 15-year-old son rushed the field to jump Royals coach Tom Gamboa. The entire team came in to get them off, and they were taken to prison. A pocket knife was found on the field, and Gamboa suffered permanent hearing loss. Both were taken to jail, but never served any time for this. The crazy part was, the very next time Gamboa returned to Chicago to play the White Sox, a year later, it happened again. 3 different people ran on the field during this game, and according to the state attorney, a man saw the others rush the field and wanted to, quote, one-up them and do something more outrageous. He not only ran on the field, but targeted umpire Laz Diaz, jumped on him, and attacked him. The umpire ended up defending himself and beating up the intruder. He was sentenced to 6 months in jail. It's one thing to stop a game because fans go on the field, but when players go into the stands, that's even crazier. That's what Jim Rice did after this play. During a collision against the wall, his hat fell off. A Yankees fan reached over the wall and took it. Rice went into the crowd to confront the man, who refused to give it back, and according to Rice, started stuffing it in his pants. Shortly after, the entire team entered the stands to get the hat back. Rice apparently only entered the stands to get his hat back because it had a 4-leaf clover in it. Eventually, he did get it back. Fans started throwing things onto the field, and just when the game was about to start again, a fan jumped on the field and tried to take the padding off the wall. Apparently, he dropped his cigarettes between the wall and the padding and was just trying to get them back. he was dragged off the field. This could have been avoided, and there could be no delay at all if the Yankees just replaced their padded wall with a fish tank. Yep, that's what the Marlins did. And during this game, it went terribly wrong. When the Marlins built their new stadium, they added two 450-gallon fish tanks right behind home plate. 100 fish called this tank home, and there was real concern from PETA that the loud noises from the stadium would be bad for the fish, and the chance of a 100+ mile per hour baseball hitting the tank would be disastrous. The Marlins were adamant it was safe, but JT Realmuto hit this foul ball directly at it. Luckily, the fish were protected by 2 layers of glass. However, the game had to stop to clean the glass, duct tape the tank, and test the stability of the tank to make sure the fish wouldn't fall out on the field. Because fish falling on the field would be a disaster, and we know that because it literally happened in Japan. This game was stopped when the left fielder called time and said something was on the field. Everyone was confused on what it was. Turns out, it was a dead fish. Vladimir Belaton says he witnessed this fish literally fall from the sky in the middle of a game. This phenomenon caused questions. Some people believed it was blown on the field from a nearby water spout. Others think it was thrown on the field, but the team says that's impossible. Others say a bird dropped it from its mouth on the field. This is still unknown, but we do know a dead fish fell from the sky onto the field, making it the most rare delay in baseball history. The most common delay in baseball history? The weather. Rain delays are a part of baseball, and some of them are legitimately life-threatening, have led to deadly moments on the field, and have fans running to shelter to save their lives. Others end with fans showering themselves with ketchup. That happened at a Yankees game after the stadium was struck by lightning. The game was delayed, but with fans waiting to see Aaron Judge hit his 60th home run, a ton of them stayed. Many of them proceeded to get belligerently drunk. The entire stadium started doing karaoke together. This guy tried to do a slip and slide on concrete right in front of security. A creepy lady just sat by herself in the rain. This man proposed to his girlfriend, and this guy filled up an entire popcorn box with ketchup and dumped it all over himself in front of dozens of fans cheering him on. Other delays aren't so funny. This team witnessed a storm so bad the game was not only canceled, but the team had to flee into their equipment room. The wind ripped the roof off of the equipment room. A dust devil hit this Little League game, and an umpire had to save a kid from it. During this game in Texas, there was a massive amount of lightning. The wind picked up tremendously. The rain began to fall, and then hail came. The umpires called the game, and tornado sirens started going off. Fans and staff panicked and ended up escorting hundreds of fans from the lower level seats into the dugouts, then underneath the stadium with the players for safety. As you can see, the weather can be life-threatening and delays are necessary to keep everyone safe. But sometimes, umpires say safety, we're playing anyway. Like in 2021 when Lucas Sims entered a game and it started pouring. He hit a batter, it started raining even harder. He walked in a run, it started raining even harder, but the umpire told him to still play on. Sims was so adamant the game be postponed, he asked for a new ball, then threw it away. Asked for another ball, threw that ball away, got another ball, threw it away, and refused to pitch, causing the umpires to finally postpone the game. In 2021, Liam Hendriks came into the game to close it out. It started pouring, but for some reason, the game continued. Hendriks was visibly upset and wanted the game to stop, saying later he couldn't even grip the baseball and it was unsafe for him and the batter. The umps didn't care and continued. Hendriks threw one pitch, got more upset, and the game continued. He got even more upset and threw away the next ball in protest. Finally, after some more complaining, Hendriks got his wish and the ump stopped the game. Ironically enough, an hour later, when the game continued, he ended up giving up the game-tying runs. Clearly, the league umpires and most players want to avoid rain delays, so much so that many teams spend hundreds of millions of dollars to build roofs. But believe it or not, even they still sometimes have rain delays. In 2015, it rained in Arizona. Fortunately, the Diamondbacks have a roof. Unfortunately, there was a small hole in it. This hole just so happened to be right over the pitcher's mound, meaning the whole field and everyone in the stadium was dry except for the pitcher. The game was briefly stopped so the grounds crew could fix the puddle, but the pitcher still had to pitch with an annoying stream of water pouring on him. Based on estimations I found online, a retractable roof costs around $100 million to build. The Marlins thought it was worth it due to the extreme heat and frequent storms in Miami. The decision to open or close a roof was up to the team president, who used weather apps on his phone to make the decision to keep the roof open on opening day 2015. According to the apps, there was a 10 to 20% chance of rain. In the second inning, it started pouring. The Marlins didn't even have a tarp on the field to cover it because they had a roof. And after a few minutes of rain, the game was postponed for rain in a stadium with a retractable roof. As you can see, sometimes just a little rain is enough to postpone a game. But other times, a stadium can be evacuated because of a fire that causes an actual explosion. And the game goes on like nothing happened. And somehow, this isn't even really that uncommon. The Reds have smokestacks in the outfield, 2 giant pillars that shoot fireworks and flames throughout the game. One game, they caught on fire. To prevent an explosion, the team started setting off fireworks from the smokestacks during at-bats while they were on fire. The fire department showed up, the section below was evacuated, and the fire was put out while the game and players continued playing like nothing was happening. In New York, a building behind Citi Field caught on fire. Smoke entered the stadium, blocking the camera's view, and although there was no one in attendance, the announcer said it was becoming hard to breathe. Again, the game continued like nothing happened. And in Atlanta, it was a lot more serious. The players arrived at the stadium normally and took batting practice for a regular 7 p.m. game. But somebody left a can of Sterno used to heat up food unattended. This started a small fire in a suite. The fire department arrived within 5 minutes, but for some reason, there was no sprinkler system in the suite and no source of water for a fire hose in the entire stadium. For the next 30 minutes, the fire went unchecked and became massive. The entire press box, radio booth, TV booth caught fire. Media members had to rush out of the booth to save their lives, while players hung out on the field and took pictures with the fire. It seemed like everything was under control, and then a massive explosion shocked everyone. Luckily, the fire department was able to source water from outside the stadium and put the fire out. This happened 90 minutes before game time, and somehow, after a 2-hour delay, the game went on. The announcers called the game from the stands. The PA announcer used his actual voice instead of a microphone to tell fans what batter was coming up, and despite their stadium literally being on fire, the Braves won the game. And despite this guy getting struck by lightning on the field, he threw a complete game. Ray Caldwell was an alcoholic. He was released by 2 teams for excessive drinking before Cleveland offered him a contract that required him to drink. Yes, the contract made him obligated to get drunk after each game he pitched and allowed him not to come to the stadium the day after. Cleveland believed this would let Caldwell get it out of his system, and if they forced him to get drunk one day, he wouldn't get drunk every day. And it actually worked. In his first start ever for Cleveland, he threw a gem. He got through 8 2/3 innings, giving up only 1 run, and just before he was about to get the final out, he was struck by lightning. Caldwell was knocked unconscious. People thought he was dead, but after a few minutes, he got up and told everyone he had a game to finish. He got the final out and will now forever be known as causing the craziest delay in baseball history.